Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into something really fundamental, how groups make decisions. Not just quickly, but well, right? And we're going beyond the usual stuff, the SWOT analyses, the meeting rules, to look at a system that views this whole process, decision-making, as a kind of spiritual practice. It's called Bahá'í Consultation.
That's exactly it. And the sources we've been digging into, they treat consultation less like a checklist and more like, well, an ethical framework.
An ethical framework.
Yeah, a sort of deliberate vehicle. Its purpose, collective uplift, and really importantly, uncovering truth together.
Okay, so our mission here for you listening is really to boil this down. Get to the heart of this ethical framework. We want to pull out the practical stuff. Like, how do you actually create that space where the best idea wins out? Not just the loudest one or the boss's idea.
And it's important to get the philosophical way right from the start. The texts describe this practice as a vessel for truth.
A vessel for truth, okay.
But it only works if it's filled with certain things. Unity, real humility, and love. It fundamentally shifts the dynamic, you know?
How so?
Well, instead of a negotiation where everyone's sort of guarding their own interests.
Right, like holding onto their card.
Exactly. It becomes more like a collective search party where everyone's focused on the same goal, finding that truth.
Okay, let's unpack this. I think a good way into this is an analogy the sources use. It really clicked for me. The glass and its spirit.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful one. Simple, but deep.
It basically tells you if your meeting is, actually doing what it's supposed to do or just performing.
Right. The analogy says a glass fulfills its purpose, its spirit, when it delivers water. That's its function.
Not when it's just sitting there looking pretty on a shelf.
Or worse, yeah, if you use it to, break another glass, that completely misses the point.
So, bringing that back to consultation.
Yeah.
Its spirit is fulfilled only when the group actually uncovers a better truth, finds a clearer path. It totally fails if it just becomes a platform for someone's ego or dominating the chat or, scoring points against Dave for marketing.
Exactly. The purpose defines success, not the performance.
Yeah.
And that analogy, it's like the foundation for everything else.
The litmus test, you said.
Yeah, it dictates the whole structure. The vessel has to be built to force that collective search for truth.
Okay.
It needs to actively build unity, demand that people let go of their own opinions once they're out there.
Let go. That's tough.
Oh, it is. And the whole conversation has to be wrapped in courtesy and genuine respect. If ego's the driver, the vessel's just empty.
Useless.
That sets a really high standard for everyone involved. So if the spirit is truth-seeking, what are the actual plans, the blueprints for building this vessel?
Well, the sources get specific. They lay out 4 core principles right from the teachings of Baha'u'llah. These are like the building blocks for those aha moments in teamwork.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. What's the first one?
Pillar 1 is the mission statement, essentially. Truth-seeking above all.
Okay. The source material puts it plainly. The purpose of consultation is to investigate truth. That simple sentence just changes everything about why you're in that room.
It forces a massive mental shift, doesn't it?
Totally.
You're not there to sell your idea.
Yeah.
You're not trying to get everyone to agree with what you already think.
Right.
You're there because you genuinely believe there's a better truth out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And the group's job is to find it.
And this means, okay, you offer your thoughts freely, put your ideas on the table. But then, and this is critical, the moment you've said it, you have to mentally detach, let it go. It's not yours anymore.
Wow. Okay, so it belongs to the group now.
Exactly. It becomes collective property, ready to be examined, tested, maybe even torn apart by the group.
Which leads us where? What's the next pillar?
That flows right into the second principle, which honestly might be the most powerful one for organizations. Unity as the outcome.
Unity as the outcome. Now, hold on. I need to push back a bit here. Thinking about our listeners in, say, really practical, maybe high-pressure jobs.
Okay.
If you have major disagreements, real clashes of opinion, isn't forcing unity after a decision just asking for trouble? Like resentment, people quietly resisting, maybe even undermining the plan later, sounds a bit like just making everyone conform.
That's a really important point and a common misunderstanding. The sources are careful here. The unity they talk about is spiritual solidarity.
Spiritual solidarity. Okay, what does that mean practically?
It means it's the key organizational advantage. Disagreements aren't just tolerated during the discussion, they're welcomed. They actually help sharpen the truth, right?
Okay, so debate is good.
Vigorous debate is good, but once the group decision is made, once a path is chosen,
Then what?
then the expectation isn't blind obedience, it's wholehearted support, publicly and privately. Everyone commits to making that decision work.
I see. So the practical payoff is maybe speed and commitment.
Exactly. If you achieve that solidarity, you skip past all the internal politics, the hallway complaining, the subtle sabotage that kills so many projects elsewhere.
Because everyone's invested in the group's success, even if their specific idea didn't win.
Precisely. You invest in the outcome, not just your initial proposal, which makes the third pillar absolutely essential.
Which is?
Detachment from ego. This requires genuine humility, realizing the truth is bigger than you.
This sounds like the absolute hardest part. In any setting, really. How do you even tell the difference between someone passionately arguing for a genuinely good idea and someone just defending their ego?
It often comes down to the language people use, their posture, the reactions. If you view your idea as an offering, like the sources suggest,
An offering. I like that.
then you're not personally attacked if the group decides to go another way. Detachment means really listening and not listening to plan your counterargument.
Guilty as charged, sometimes.
We all are. But listening to actually understand the other person's point and staying open, truly open to the idea that maybe, just maybe, you're wrong.
That's huge. That unlocks so much potential for honesty, for real innovation, because you're not wasting energy defending the past.
Right. You're focused on finding the best way forward. The material says it requires being open to personal transformation.
Meaning you might walk out of the meeting fundamentally changed.
Yes, you walk in knowing that you might be the one who needs to adapt their thinking the most. And that brings us to the fourth pillar, which kind of holds it all together socially.
Okay, the social glue, what is it?
Love and courtesy as the method.
So this ensures the discussion stays tough on ideas, but gentle on people.
Exactly. It keeps rigor high without letting things get personal or destructive. And the sources get quite specific about the behaviors here, too.
Like what?
The whole tone needs to be, well, gentle, respectful, encouraging. It's not about tiptoeing around issues. Conflict is okay, even necessary.
But constructive conflict.
Constructive conflict that serves the truth, not someone's ego. So if you need to correct someone or critique an idea, which you will, you do it with kindness. And when someone does well or offers something valuable, you offer genuine praise, sincerely.
It's about honoring the person, even while you're stress testing their idea.
Yes. The interaction itself has to be respectful. It's this amazing blend, intense intellectual focus, combined with really strong ethical guardrails.
Wow. Okay, so we have these 4 pillars: truth, unity, detachment, and courtesy. How do they actually look in action? The sources give an example, right?
They do. They point to the example of Abdu'l-Bahá as someone who embodied these principles in practice. It helps make the abstract feel, real.
So if we could, magically observe him moderating a consultation today, what would jump out at us? How would it feel different from a typical corporate meeting?
Well, first off, the whole atmosphere would be different. It would likely start with something explicitly spiritual, maybe a prayer, or just a moment of quiet reflection.
Setting the tone right away.
Exactly, signaling that this isn't just about business as usual, it's a higher pursuit, creating a kind of sacred space, if you will.
And what else? You mentioned equality earlier.
Yes, absolutely. You'd see a very deliberate focus on equality, which directly counters that common problem, the HPO effect, the highest paid person's opinion always winning. Here, every single voice is actively sought out and valued. Doesn't matter your rank, your background. The idea is to get the maximum diversity of thought onto the table.
Okay, so inclusion is built in.
Deeply. And the moderator, like Abdu'l-Bahá in this example, would actively model that detachment and deep listening we talked about.
Keeping things on track.
But not by shutting people down, more by preventing the discussion from becoming personal attacks or defensive maneuvers. The moderator's role is actually quite profound here.
How so?
It's not about forcing their solution. It's about gently guiding the group towards unity, towards finding that shared purpose and consensus.
So the facilitator is more like a guardian of the process, protecting its integrity.
That's a great way to put it. Protecting the space so truth can emerge. And doing it all with warmth, respect, maybe even humor. Making sure people feel safe to speak up, even with a tough critique.
And ensuring the person receiving the critique doesn't feel attacked or shamed.
Exactly. The moderator's success isn't measured by pushing an agenda, but by how freely the truth flows and how united the group remains, both during and after the decision.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring it home for the listener. We know this comes from a specific religious background, but how can you, listening right now, take these powerful ideas about ethical decision-making and actually use them in your team meeting next week, in a classroom, in any group trying to get stuff done?
I think the key is to see consultation first as an ethical practice that has universal application. It's fundamentally about changing behaviors, not adopting a theology.
Yeah, behavior change.
And the sources offer some really concrete tools and ideas for, say, training or team development that you can adapt pretty easily.
Let's talk about those tools. You mentioned symbolic visuals, that idea of the glasses pouring into a shared bowl.
Yeah, I love that one. It's such a simple visual way to represent the core idea. Your contribution matters, but the collective outcome is the goal.
So practically, you could just put a picture of that in the meeting room.
You could. Or a similar image that represents shared effort. It's a low-stakes way to start shifting the mindset. It subtly reminds everyone, we're not here to see whose glass stays full. We're here to fill the shared bowl together.
And what about actual activities? The sources mentioned role-playing.
Right. Role-playing consultations specifically focused on practicing the really hard parts, like detachment and achieving that spiritual solidarity.
Why role-play?
Because most of us, frankly, are practiced at winning arguments, not at gracefully letting go. This is essential training.
So you'd set up a scenario where...
Imagine a role play where your specific goal is to argue passionately for point A, but then when the group decides on point B, your task is to genuinely, convincingly get behind point B. Maybe even physically, like moving to stand with the other side.
So you're training the muscle of solidarity.
Exactly. You're practicing detachment from your ego in a safe environment.
Okay, but let's anticipate the pushback. If someone listening tries to introduce terms like spiritual solidarity or detachment in a, let's say, very results-focused, maybe competitive workplace,
Yeah.
they might get some eye rolls.
For sure. And that's where reframing is key. You don't have to sell it using the spiritual language if that's not the right context. Sell it based on results.
Oh.
Frame it as the most efficient path to real commitment and intellectual honesty. Detachment isn't some fuzzy concept. It saves time because you cut out all the defensive posturing.
Okay, time saving. Good angle.
And unity or solidarity means faster, smoother implementation because you don't have internal opposition dragging its feet. You're basically trading a little bit of ego for significant gains in speed and the quality of the final outcome.
I also really like the idea of using poetic prompts.
Yeah.
That example. Speak not to be heard, but to serve truth. Imagine starting a difficult planning meeting with just that one sentence. How could that not change the energy in the room?
It's powerful because it's a direct cognitive challenge. It makes everyone pause and check their motives. Why am I about to speak? Is it because I need to prove I'm smart? Or because I genuinely have something to offer the group's search?
So when groups start using these tools, these shifts in mindset, they're essentially taking consultation back from being just another meeting.
And turning it into a real living practice. Exactly. Yes. And the big takeaway from our deep dive really is that consultation, when practiced with this kind of ethical intention, isn't just a process. It becomes, as the sources say, a lamp of guidance.
Illuminating the path.
Yeah, illuminating paths toward better decisions, towards maybe even justice, healing, and definitely collective progress. It works because it values the truth above the individual ego.
So to sum up, seeking truth means consciously putting ego aside and aiming for that spiritual solidarity, that shared commitment, is actually a more effective goal than just winning the argument.
That's the core of it.
All right, let me leave you with a final thought to chew on. Something practical, focusing just on language and behavior. We've talked about ideas as offerings, not possessions. What if, in your very next group discussion, you consciously shifted your language, moved away from saying, my opinion is, or I think we absolutely must.
Okay.
And instead, you tried phrasing it as, here's an offering for the group's consideration. Or, I'd like to offer this thought to the truth we're seeking. Just that small change in words. How might that tiny shift affect your own posture, your openness to listening, maybe even your body language? And ultimately, what impact could it have on the outcome of that conversation?
That's a fascinating experiment to try.
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the spirit of collective discovery. We really hope this gives you some tools and inspiration for your own group endeavors.